Hey everybody, final thoughts time for Ticket to Ride Legends of the West. Although, folks, this is going to be kind of an unusual final thoughts because my problem is I've only played the first chapter of the game. So at the best, I can give you some preliminary thoughts, which you already heard if you watched me and my wife, Jen, playing an entire game through the first session and having an overall pretty good time, I got to say. So, based on what I've seen so far, I'm excited to keep going. I like what I've seen. Taking core Ticket to Ride and adding two very significant modifications to the core idea. One, that you finally score based on the color of the route on the board. That's been a confusing thing for people forever. They think, well, I'm the blue player. Don't I want to grab the blue lines? Now you do. And it really changes the incentive structure because you can score just as many points off of a long line as you can off of a short line if it's your color and the rest of them aren't interesting to you at all. But since it's the only way your opponents can score a color too, you are more inclined to maybe build in places that will cut off somebody else from being able to do it. And of course, tickets themselves of the to-ride variety are an even bigger deal for scoring than they've ever been before. So, the core gameplay is still the same, but just that one little shift really changes the way you approach things. And then on top of that, you've got events. Which is a very, very interesting new idea that the game can change and go in unexpected directions and reward you or punish you in unexpected ways at the moment that you least expect, and thereby completely overturning your expectations of how this game is going to play out. I imagine we could play that first chapter again if we wanted, and with the events coming out in a different order or different events showing up, that combined with different tickets is going to give a fair bit of surprise and replayability. So I really like that. However, I also don't like it because as time has gone on, I have found myself less and less amenable to the idea of introducing surprise moments in competitive Euro games, which of course is what Ticket to Ride is. It's a gateway game, but it is still a Euro game. Events like this that can say, oh, when it comes up, oh, I get nothing for that, and you got 10 points for it? What? How? And then on the flip side, this is ruining my plans and you don't care at all. I've only seen a few of these things so far, folks, but I gotta say, they make me a little bit nervous. The ones where, hey, it comes out and until this goes away, take advantage of this, I think that's fantastic. But the other ones that say, the moment this card is revealed, do a thing, get a reward, and maybe some people will and some people won't. That has the potential to be swingy, and honestly, I'm not crazy about that. So I have mixed feelings right out of the gate. But honestly, folks, there is a super easy way to fix this, and I wouldn't be surprised if by the third chapter, I'm going to introduce a little house rule, which is to say, and by the way, I hate house rules. I hate doing it, but I hate swingy events and games even more. So to me, it would seem so simple. So easy to just simply say, hey, when you put the shuffle up the event deck and put it on the table, put it face up instead of face down. Because what does that do? That means right from the get-go, everybody can see with their first check, oh, that's something that's coming. I need to bear that in mind in addition to what are my tickets and what train cards do I have and where am I trying to block you and where am I trying to expand and which card should I grab. One extra thing to consider, oh man, at some point, maybe it'll be next turn, maybe it'll be in 10 turns, that's going to happen, and I need to be ready for it. To me, that improves the game because that's just an extra level of depth and complexity to be able to wrangle in what is traditionally a fairly simple game. Now, as I understand it, the game gets bigger and richer and more complex as we go, but of course, Jen and I haven't seen that. But honestly, I think that might be a way to turn what it feels kind of like lemons to me into a little bit of lemonade and make the game even better. I'll have to see as we move forward, because here's the deal, folks. I'm planning on taking this on the road. My wife and I are about to embark on an epic half-year-long road trip down to Mexico and back, and you better believe we're going to be having this in the RV with us and enjoying a game or two every week. I'm very, very excited. But, folks, I'm excited for you too, because I've got more than preliminary thoughts. Because here's the deal, folks. I only got this a couple of weeks ago. Amy and Maggie, Thinker Themer, they got their copy a couple of months ago down under. And they're contributors to the channel, right? So I reached out and said, hey, you finished the campaign, haven't you, right? Could you go on ahead and film some final thoughts for the channel based on your experiences playing all the way through all 12 chapters? You know, how does the game advance? How does it deal with players coming and going? Stuff like that. I'll put the run-through up. You can provide the final thoughts, and all together, we, as a Rahdo family, will be able to provide you folks with a broader sense for what the overall Ticket to Ride Legends experience is. And they said yes. And even though they were on the road at the moment, they were able to use their spotty internet to upload their final thoughts. And so, folks, I'm now going to throw over to them. Amy and Maggie, take it away.
Hi everybody. Okay, so final thoughts time for Ticket to Ride, the Legacy Edition, Legends of the West. And boy, this game certainly delivered.
It really did.
Yeah,
that was a saga that was worth undertaking.
Yes, so you saw the run through where we played through the first game, but it changes so much after that. We have now finished all 12 games in the campaign.
We still can't give you details. We still can't, give you any spoilers or anything like that. But all I can say is what you saw in that game. It's like there's a couple of introductions of things that are to come.
Yeah, like the events we got to show you.
To say that that's the tip of the iceberg is the understatement of the year. Because even like from the point that we stopped, which we weren't really able to show, at that point, one of the biggest surprises kind of kicks in.
It does, and that's why I can totally appreciate why they asked us to stop at that point, because we don't want to give away anything that's going to take away from the experience for you, but you're probably still thinking, should I buy this or not? And so we want to give you our thoughts on that. So firstly, I can say it definitely delivers on all of the surprises and unboxings of secret packages and things that you would expect in a legacy game, and it delivers on them really well. Every time there's a new turn or there's a new mechanic that's brought into the game, new objectives, new ways of playing, it's really fun, and it keeps it really fresh from game to game. So there was enough changing from game to game that it never got stale. It always felt like we had to upskill in a different area or take on some new rules. So
there was a lot of delight, and it all felt like it made sense as you were progressing through the game. It wasn't like, oh, well, this came out of nowhere. It was like, yep, okay, this is cool. This makes sense with this bit. And none of it really overstayed its welcome. Like everything just sort of came in and left at the right times.
Yeah, so there are other games, and if you've played Pandemic, at some points in that game there's so much going on that you're like, how am I going to keep all of this in my head? And there's a little bit of that, because I would say that this is probably more advanced than any other version of Ticket to Ride, and as you're adding more and more things in, it certainly does get more complex, but there's also mechanics that get retired along the way, or parts of the games and objectives that come in and then they go out again, so there's never too much going on at once, and that is really fun, because it does, like I said, it keeps it really fresh, but it's really engaging as well. And it felt like by the end of the 12 campaigns, we had been through, the 12 games in the campaign. It felt like we'd really been through a saga together. And we should probably talk about how we played it. We played it with 3 players. It was mostly me and Maggie and my sister, and we play a lot of games together, and it was such a joyful experience, and we were all really excited to sit down to every game. We took it in turns opening different things, and there's a lot of choice that you get in this game as well. So all the players are contributing and discussing sometimes what they're going to do or what they're going to choose, and
how we're going to progress the game going forward. And obviously you would have seen our playthrough. The run through was at a 2-player count. The game actually does a really great job of managing when players are not in the game. So then, for example, when we introduce a 3rd player for the next game, it has ways of catching up those players more if they're going to then obviously be part of the full game. And it's a fairly easy kind of process, I think, that they've,
Yeah, so you can skip a game and come back in, and then the only thing you need to do is really get up to speed with what's changed between games.
Yeah.
But so you can play this game up to a 5-player count. I don't think it scales too differently to any other Ticket to Ride game, although I will say that it is a really large map. And so for me, I don't think, and we disagree on this, but I don't think I would have wanted to play it completely at 2 players, only because, you know, in regular Ticket to Ride, as you know, you have the tickets that you're trying to achieve, and obviously that's easier if there's no one getting in your way, and this is a big map, so that's just one consideration.
Yeah, whereas for me, I don't mind it at 2 players because I think you get a lot more joy out of the frustration of someone getting in your way, whereas for me, I'm more about like, there's all these different routes that I want to take, and then...
Or getting in someone's way.
Yeah, see, I'm just focused on all the different...
Interrupting you now.
All the different tickets that I want to do. And so I don't mind, like I still, like when we play at a 2-player count, I still have a great experience. If anything, it's like the tension of that 3rd player. I agree. It's fun because it's like, oh, now it's a little bit tighter, but I'm happy either way.
Yeah, so if you're more of a multiplayer solitaire gamer like Maggie, then you might enjoy that. If you like more interaction, then of course the more players you can get around the table, the better. But yeah, what else can we tell you about this game? One thing that I will say that I wasn't as happy with this game was the game that's left over at the end. So of course, one of the biggest concerns with a legacy game is it's a lot of money, and then you're going to destroy it to a point where you can't sell it on, or no one can go in and play it, so you can't recharge this game. So you are left with a very customized version of your game, but also it strips out a lot of the things that you've played with along the way throughout the campaign, and so it actually ends up being quite a simple version of Ticket to Ride. Think of it as one of the Ticket to Ride with a couple of additional elements, like one of the variants of Ticket to Ride. That's what you're left with, and for me, it was just a bit sad that all the things that I loved about the game was then removed out of the game, to the point where it kind of ends up in a similar position to the fact that we didn't have Ticket to Ride in our collection before, and now I feel like it's almost been stripped back to that simplified version. But,
and now I know what I'm missing as well. So
it's like all the fun bits have been taken out. But I can see why they had to do it. They've got to make something that's easily replayable by people who might be all different groups of people joining you for that game. I think the only way that you could probably make some money back is by selling your original version of Ticket to Ride and keeping your personalized version that you've created with this legacy game. So that's a bit disappointing for me, but for some people they won't mind if this is just a one-shot campaign game for you.
There's definitely a lot of game in it, so it's probably like we should talk about the length for each game.
Yes.
So we played most of them, like they start out fairly quick, so we probably the first few games we played in about 20 to 30 minutes.
Yep.
And then the subsequent games, like they went up to like more like 45-minute mark. So you do get, like if you're playing just those 12 games of the campaign, you're getting quite a lot of hours of
definitely
gameplay.
And it feels meaty, that's the thing as well. So, you know, because it's only a half an hour to a 45-minute game, it could have felt a bit lackluster or like a filler or something, but there's actually enough in it that it feels so mechanically interesting, and there's enough going on that you're following along, that it feels like by the end of the 12 games, I felt like I'd played many more games than that.
Yeah, you feel like you've really been on on this whole journey.
Yeah. And journey in the sense of the gameplay and not in the sense of the narrative, because, you know, as we talked about on our channel, the narrative is a little light in this game. So don't go in with the right expectations. Think about it as Ticket to Ride with a bit of a story overlay guiding your way through.
Very
light.
Thin guiding, very lean guiding overarching
It's more
story.
to give you an ongoing setting and sense of place and time than it is to tell you this really compelling story arc of characters. It's not really like that at all. So just go in with the right frame of mind on that. But we have really enjoyed our time with this legacy experience. It's one of the better legacy experiences that we've had, and we do really enjoy them. And it feels like we got enough out of it that this game would be worth it if we were buying it, because I felt like it was so satisfying.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you, me, and my sister just had such a fun time playing this. So hope that helped you in some way with no spoilers. Think about whether this is right or wrong for you. And we hope you enjoyed the little that we could show you in the run through. If you did, please like this video, subscribe to Rahdo's channel if you haven't already, and we'll be back with more board game content soon. But otherwise, bye for now.
Bye.